Well, the Cardinals have secured at least another series split or win. We'll see how tomorrow's game against the Washington Nationals goes. This series has brought up a lot of questions, though. Is the lineup kind of finally getting to where we thought it would be? Is the rotation maybe a little bit shakier than we thought it was, or maybe actually how we thought it would be going into the year? The Cardinals sneakily back into the NL Central mix as well. So the Brewers have lost some games as of late. Sandy and I are going to talk about all that and a little bit more trade deadline chatter on this episode of Dealing the Cards. Sandy, I mean, I know we keep going back to Mother's Day. Over the last, I don't know, this is back to Mother's Day, but the last 50 games the Cardinals have played, tell me what you think their record is the last 50 games.
Well, I know because I've been keeping track of it, but what's it, like 32-18, 31-19?
2-18. That's a 64% win percentage.
Best team in the National League.
50 games. This is not a small sample size anymore. Okay. Okay. Time out. They have the best record in the National League.
I'm not saying they're the best in the National League. In that stretch, it's the best.
It's the best record. I'm even me, who everyone says is most water holder. I'm not going to say they're the best team in the National League.
No, I'm not saying that. But that's the best record in that stretch.
Best record. And okay, there are some things to point out. Like, sure, they've had an easier schedule as of late, but they've also taken care of games against the teams that matter. I think they're 10-6 against teams that have winning records.
They've won our big series. They swept the Orioles.
Yep.
They beat the Giants. They swept the Giants.
Yep.
They won series against the Cubs in that span and stretch. Yep. Everyone was saying we're good until this skid. They won a series against the Braves. Like, these are not, and they faced the Astros and Phillies.
Yep.
So.
And both were on the road too, which I think plays into things. Also, you're doing this while Wilson Contreras was out for most of it. Lars Nootbaar's been out for most of it. You haven't had Tommy Edman for any of it. And also, Paul Goldschmidt is still not hitting. And until this weekend, Nolan Arenado wasn't hitting either. So to be 32-18 with a lot of things not going right. Yeah, Gorm slump was in the middle of that too. There's a lot to be interested in this team right now. And so, again, I'm not going to try and sell you on them as a World Series contender right now, but am I going to sell you on the fact that they're for sure a playoff team? Yes. Am I going to sell you on the fact that I think a couple moves here and there to tweak the roster can make them an interesting team in the postseason? Yeah, I will. And we can talk about that. We will continue to talk about that. But again, they've won or split 13 of their last 16 series, which is also kind of wild to think too. I don't think they've been swept. No, I don't think they've even been swept over this period as well, which I think is pretty great. Obviously, like, there's some things to be a little bit like, okay, let's start with the negative, because I think people want to talk about some of the issues that have come up. And probably the biggest negative you can talk about with this team right now as of late is the rotation kind of faltering a little bit. I mean, the Nationals lineup isn't scaring me, if I'm being honest, but the series, it's been scaring me. Lance Lynn, I think he's the big guy. We got to be, I mean, he's the big guy, but he's also the big guy that my radars are kind of going, this might be a major issue right now. Sonny Gray obviously had a poor start, but I'm not worried. I mean, everyone wants he has one poor start out of every 6 or 7. People are like, oh, who's this ace? And then he goes down and shoves for the next 6. So, like, I'm okay with Sonny Gray here. Kyle Gibson, again, wasn't his best stuff today, but I still think he's pretty reliable, and he's probably a decent number or a pretty good number 3 for a club. So he's having to fill in that number 2 role right now. Miles Michaelis, again, it's been a better rebound since middle of May, but as of late, he's getting hit a little bit more, so that's kind of concerning. And the pitcher who's actually been the best as of late is Andre Pallante, who's the one who I was like, how on earth is he still in the rotation like a couple weeks ago? So, Sandy, how are you feeling about the rotation right now? I think we could probably agree they need to upgrade somewhere, but if you had to pick one starter right now that you're like, hey, this is the guy that would have to go if all 5 are healthy, who are you looking at?
I think it's probably Lance Lynn, but maybe this is a little recency bias. Yesterday was just so bad.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Lance Lynn lost the game. The offense scored 6 runs. That's enough to win. And they put up 4 in the third and had more chances to score. And I think if they're not down 8, like, it was just disheartening. Yeah. You had Lynn give up 4 right away. You're like, oh, the game's not over. Then he gives up 5 in the second. The game is over. And then the offense scores 4, has a chance to add on a couple others. And I was feeling okay at that point. And then it's like all Lance Lynn has to do is just not give up any more runs through 5. Like 9 through 5 is horrible. That is the lowest bar possible. And what does he do? Promptly goes out and gives up 2 more. And at that point, the game was over.
Yeah.
Any sort of like, oh, maybe there's a crazy comeback brewing. It was done. It was over. Really bad. So I think it's probably Lance Lynn. But honestly, Like even yesterday's disaster outing only raised his season ERA to 4.48, which is kind of surprising. Normally, if you just tack on 11 free runs to somebody's ERA, it's probably over 5. So that tells you how decent Lynn had been earlier in the year. And it felt like he was on a nice little stretch. He had a couple of good starts in June. I don't know. Right now, it's probably him. I actually feel really good about Pallante. I feel like he just plays well as a starter. You kind of know he's going to give up a run or two every time. You're not expecting a shutout with him. It's just kind of what you do when you're getting all those ground balls. Sometimes 2 or 3 in a row are going to get through. Yeah. And it'll be a bummer. But it's been really good. I love what he's done. He's averaging over 5 innings a start now. That last start was unbelievable. And that's with some shenanigans from Marmol pulling him in the 3rd earlier this year, which was really odd when it seemed like he was having a good day. So it's been good. He's got a 3.43, I think, as a starter.
Something like that.
Better than most people would think. I'm not sure. I think it's Lynn to say what I'm saying here. To wrap it up, I think it's Lynn. But I don't really hate any of them. And I'd be interested in maybe giving Libby another shot at some point too, after how good his last start was. The Cardinals are in a good spot rotationally, much better than we thought it would be coming into the year.
Yeah, you're not talking about Jake Woodford or Dakota Hudson or Adam Wainwright getting into the rotation right now. So it's like literally the biggest red flag for me right now lately has been Lance Lynn. And I mean, like, Wainwright had like 5 of those starts last year. Jake Woodford, it was like every start he went out there. So
remember
like
that Rocky start last year?
Gosh, and the Kansas City Royals one. Oh man, I think that's the one that made me think it was over.
About Waino though, I'll just say no one's gonna talk about it, but Kyle Hendricks is having a worse year than Wainwright had last year.
You're really on this.
It's so funny. It makes me so happy. The 2024 Cubs are the 2023 Cardinals, and I'm here for it. I'll take my victory laps. Hendricks has been worse.
Clip that.
Clip it. Hendricks has been worse. The numbers back it up. It is hilarious.
I love it. Yeah, and Dakota Hudson just got DFA'd. So who knows? Maybe some 6 starter, right? I did see some Cody. Cody, always great to have you in here. He suggested the idea of a 6-man rotation. I'm totally out on that because I think it actually, like the same things that we kept talking about of like, oh, the bullpen's too taxed. Well, you're going to take a bullpen arm away.
Yeah. So
I don't think you shrank the bullpen to a 7. I also think by the time the deadline comes around, you're either probably going to have a glaring hole with one of your starters, whether it's Pallante, Lynn. That's like, okay, clearly Lynn needs DFA'd or Pallante needs to be removed from the rotation. You replace that. Or again, injuries happen. And the Cardinals have been pretty darn lucky. Obviously, they've been missing Steven Matz for a while. That's kind of be expected. You missed some time with Sonny Gray, but again, Lynn, Michaelis, and Gibson have all been healthy. Obviously, Gibson missed a weird start there. If I had to go back and answer that question, I'll play like Switzerland here and kind of say like, I don't think the Cardinals know what they would do come July 31st right now. I think you would probably lean. I know people don't like it, but it kind of makes sense when you're talking about how you construct a roster. I think you probably remove Pallante right now because what you do, and again, it probably depends on the starter you grab too, but I think the Cardinals are now in a position, and if you asked me 3 or 4 weeks ago, I was not about this. I didn't think they were good enough to go out and swing for a number 2 starter. I think now you can make a swing for a guy who could play like a number 2 starter. Max Scherzer just screams Cardinal to me right now. I think you'd make a ton of sense. The Rangers reportedly that's one of the players that people are looking out for to be dealt. I know people want Nathan Eovaldi, but it doesn't seem like the Rangers are at least at that spot yet. But Max Scherzer is someone I think could be had. If you add someone like that, then I think you can afford like Lance. I mean, it also depends. We're getting the Lance Lynn that's giving up 10 runs every game because Wainwright got a longer leash because he was Adam Wainwright and he was going for win number 200. And even then they were having conversations about removing him from the rotation. Yeah. And they're out of it. It's not going to happen with Lance Lynn here. So I don't think that's who he is. I think if he's a mid-4s ERA guy, I think he probably stays in the rotation because you don't have to DFA him then. You have him because here's the thing. People are like, oh, let's throw Lance Lynn in the bullpen or just release him. And it's like, well, what happens if 2 days later Miles Michaelis goes down? And it's like, okay, well, now you just lost a starter and Pallante's in the rotation. So I was like, I guess I move Libby in there. And I really liked what I saw from him the last few times, but like he is a bullpen piece. And it's like, okay, would you move Graceffo in there? Like, I think it makes sense to hold on to Lynn, but I want to give him a long leash. Like if the middle of August is not working out, or it's clear he's just detrimental to the team's success, you pull him out of there. But I think if the trade deadline was today, I think Lance Lynn stays in there. But again, if this is what Lance is just going to be the rest of the month, I don't know. I think you could see him released or DFA'd. I don't see him in the bullpen. I don't think it makes a ton of sense. Maybe they do a quick like Steven Matz last year where they put him in there, see if he can work it out and then come back in. But I just don't think his stuff will really play in the bullpen. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. But I agree with you. I think I'm actually really encouraged mostly by this rotation. I think it's just when there's multiple games in a row where it doesn't go well and it's against a lineup like the Nationals, then people are going to freak out about it. But overall, I think they're doing the job. And the lineup, which I think is where we should transition this conversation to, is finally starting to produce. I know it's the Nationals this series, but encouraging. Like they faced a bunch of left-handed starters and they've gotten to the bullpens, which has been huge. But you've seen Nolan Arenado start to heat up, right? Like Nolan Gorman's out of his weird slump. Brendan Donovan and Alec Burleson continue to be those guys. Wilson Contreras is a beast. Lars Nootbaar isn't even back in the lineup yet, and he'll be back whether it's tomorrow or in the first game of the home series or homestand. He'll be back. Tom Yemen at some point will be back as well. Even if you're getting some regression from this rotation, that's what this lineup was supposed to do, is to make up for that. This rotation wasn't built to be a team that's going to carry you for 2 runs over 7 innings. Like it was supposed to be a rotation that kind of just gets you by enough so the offense can produce.
Today is the blueprint.
Today the blueprint.
It's what it was supposed to look like all year.
How are you feeling about what's your optimism level with the lineup right now? 0 is like ground zero where we were like, this is one of the worst lineups in baseball, historically bad. 10 is where we're at, where it's like, this could be a top 5 offense. Like, how optimistic are you with this lineup right now?
I'm like a 5.
Maybe top 10. How about say a 10, like a top 10 lineup? Top 5 is.
I think this is still at its best. Like it could be a top 10 lineup moving forward. I'm not sure I'm there right now because I think we're at the point where it's fair to say Goldie and Arenado might not hit. Like they might not hit this year.
Yeah.
And Arenado just got his OPS back over 700. And like when I saw that, I kind of celebrated inside, which is not where I want to be with Arenado as a hitter. Like, that's not how I want to feel about him. I was expecting like a bad season from Arenado over the last 10 years has been an 830 OPS. You don't want to see him in the 600s. You don't want to see Goldie where he is at 650. They might not hit the rest of the year. Also, They are so bad with runners in scoring position. Paul Goldschmidt is hitting like 150 with runners in scoring position. So if those are your big boppers and you're going to continue to hit them in the 4-5 spots, like it's going to cost you. They need to move down in the lineup. It's just not time anymore. They don't have the speed. It's just not good. But the rest of the lineup feels really, really good. Mason Wynn is a legit, like he's a stud. Alec Burleson has a bat that is like officially MLB ready. He's a regular with like legitimate star potential. He's really good. Yep. The underlying numbers are really encouraging. Wilson Contreras, if he wasn't hurt, he would be an MVP candidate right now. He's got a 930 OPS. That's probably, if he was a qualified hitter, you're talking about a top 5 hitter in the National League at that point. He's been unbelievable. Obviously, you've talked about how good Donnie is. We're excited to get Newt and Edmund back. The lineup's fine. It's not going to dominate. You don't have the Phillies lineup. You don't have 5 guys in the top 20. But I'm feeling okay about it. I don't think they're going to have those prolonged stretches of terribleness like they did in April and May.
Yeah, I agree. And there's some interesting things to note as well. Like, I know you kind of already touched on it, but Gorm has come out of that really cold stretch. And again, we just got to remember this is who he is. So every time it just hits that point where it's felt too long and people are like, oh, Gorman just terrible. And then he finally breaks out and it's awesome again.
If it's not June, that.
Because June is just historically bad for him. He'll have I think August last year was like an 80 WRC plus. So it's like it's underperforming pretty significantly, but it's not like unplayable bad. Mason Wynn though was an interesting one because June he kind of slowed down a bit and you're kind of like, okay, well, is he finally hitting the wall a little bit? Last 7 games, he's a 941 OPS now. So I think he's kind of heating up again. That's a 387 batting average, 484 slug. And then even his last 15 games, it's a 297 average, 366 OBP. Last 30 games, 285 average, 336 OBP. So like you're not getting the slug from Mason Wynn that you want eventually, but from the leadoff guy, you want him getting on base as much as possible and close to a 300 batting average. Yeah, because then it's like these guys, if Michael Ciani gets on, well, 1 out of every 3 times, Mason Wynn's going to hit one in the gap and Michael Ciani's going to score. And so it's like now you're driving in runs with him too. And then you're also continuing to move the line down. We've seen that with this lineup. Yeah, we should put, or Cody said we have to IL Gorman next June. Yep. I mean, it's just at this point, you kind of got to do that. Yeah, honestly, at this point. So I just think there's a lot of things like that. I mean, against left-handed pitching, they've been historically bad this year. Just not good. I mean, not historically, but it's been really bad. They only have 2 players that are up hitting above at league average against lefties this year. I think it's Mason Wynn and Paul Goldschmidt. So and Wilson Contreras too, but he just hasn't had enough at bats.
Yeah.
So like that's really concerning. But thankfully, Tom Yedman, that's like his calling card, is hitting against left-handed pitching. Sounds like they want to add another right-handed bat, not necessarily the Brent Rookers of the world where they're significant bats, but like a Kevin Pillar, Randall Grichuk type. Like, is it flashy? No, but when you're playing against just left-handers or coming off the bench, those guys 20% above league average, like that's really valuable.
Yeah, Jock Peterson made a living doing that. So
yeah, he was just the opposite. So you feel it more because it's just against righties, but like
platoons.
Yeah, and like we saw how good this team was in 2022 when Goldschmidt, Arenado, and Pujols were just like insane against right-handed or left-handed pitching. It was wild.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of wild to see how different this team is now. But honestly, it's kind of better constructed because you have all these left-handed bats that can hit against right-handed pitching, which is the majority of the pitching you're going to face. I'd have to find the tweet the other day, but I think they have like 7 or 8 guys who are hitting above league average against right-handed pitching, which is kind of what we talked about going into the years. This lineup can be 9 guys deep of guys who hit above league average. And then if you look at like Wilson Contreras, obviously is just like insane. Alec Burleson's been really good. Here we go. Like Lars Nootbaar is a 148 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. Burleson's a 147. Wilson Contreras is a 143. So they have 3 guys who have over a 140 WRC plus against right-handed pitching. Donovan's at 126. Herrera at 117. Wynn at 113. Arenado's at 106. And that was before today's game, so it's probably even higher. 100 for Gorm, so also probably a little bit higher too. I think that's all really significant. And when I think at the postseason too, it's like you need, and it's just been proven, and we can go back and talk about this at some point, but left-handed bats are the things that continue to be consistent in the postseason. Right-handed bats drop off significantly. So if I'm going to be heavy on one, I want to be heavy on the left-handed bats.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of those guys aren't necessarily super playoff tested, so that's something to think about. But yeah, I'm really optimistic about how this lineup's going to go. And honestly, I remember saying it when the offense was so bad. Back then, I was still more concerned with the pitching than I am the hitting, and now I definitely am. Like this rotation, I feel pretty good about it, but I would feel way better about it if they add another starter, even if it's just Tyler Anderson. Like I'd feel better. I'd feel way better if it's Max Scherzer or someone like that.
Oh yeah.
And then this bullpen. I mean, I get that the names keep changing. Like Andrew Kittredge and JoJo Romero aren't necessarily lighting the world on fire all the time right now, but Ryan Fernandez is like
King is
master class Rule 5 pick right there. So. Anyways, it sounded like it looked like you were trying to say something, so I'll let you jump in now.
I was just going to say this bullpen's been unbelievable. We don't like. There's nothing you could say about it to like demonstrate how great it's been.
Yeah,
and maybe the best in the National League. They're the MVPs of the team, and with a bullpen like this, you can actually make a run in October. They can shorten games. The Cardinals can shorten games really well. So I feel really good about this team. That's all I've got to say about it. Like I feel great about where the Cardinals are. Yeah. And I think I get so much sentiment that, the Cardinals are just okay. But no, like they've been good over a long stretch. That's what we've been saying. We keep going back to Mother's Day, but that's because it was a long time ago. And they've been really good since then. It's crazy that the Phillies, Braves, Dodgers, Brewers, they've won a lot of games, but they have not won as many games over that stretch as the Cardinals have. That's unbelievable. The Cardinals are a legitimate playoff team. And sure, it's not always pretty. They're 17-12 in 1-run games. So maybe there's a little bit of regression that could come there, but not really. That's not like a crazy record. It's not like the Rangers in 2016. I was looking this up. They went 36-11 in 1-run games. It's not like that. Wild. The Cardinals are not incredibly lucky. The run differential is bad, but that's because Oli Marmol has shown that if the game's out of hand, he's just going to stick with a guy. He let Gibson pitch down 10 earlier this year when he had his implosion against Miami. He let Lynn ride as far as he possibly could, but Lynn showed us that if he had kept going, we might have never gotten out of the inning. So it was time. Yeah. But I just feel good about this team, and I think that other people should get on board because it's actually fun to be optimistic about a team that is good at baseball.
It's definitely a lot more fun. And I cannot believe I saw the other day, like 2 days ago, someone tweet out this team is more miserable than the 23 team. And I'm like, what? I think like something last season did a number on people mentally. I just don't think people understand.
Obnoxious. Like, get over it.
So it's just insane. I do think if you want to look at the pessimistic side of things a little bit, especially with the Cardinals, I mean, you've got the Mets coming on strong. You've got the Padres playing pretty well. I mean, they're still ahead of you, Braves, and you've got other teams behind you who can make some moves. And then you look at their August and September schedule, it's brutal. You play the Cubs, the Rays, the Royals, the Reds, the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Twins, the Padres, and the Yankees all in August. So basically all contenders in August.
Sure.
September, you got Milwaukee again, Seattle, Cincinnati, Toronto, Pittsburgh. So that's a nice stretch of there. But then you finish off with Cleveland, Colorado, and San Francisco. So it's not going to be easy down the stretch, and which is where they really need to fortify here. Again, is that what they're going to do?
We're ahead of San Diego according to win percentage. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's nice. Well, we'll take that.
Also, the NL is thinned out like quite a bit. Yeah. I think it's fair to say that a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about 9 teams within a game and a half of each other. But right now, the Cubs are 6 games out. Like that's substantial. They're 6 games behind the Cardinals. Yeah. The Nationals, after today's loss, are 5.5 back. So are the Reds. The Pirates are 5. Even the Giants are 4 back, and they have not played good baseball over the last couple of weeks. They could drop farther. And they're still in a tough division, having to face the Dodgers. So and the Padres. So like things really thinned out, and the Braves have fallen back closer to the pack too. That first wildcard spot is absolutely within reach. The Cardinals continue to gain on them. They won today to preserve a 2.5 game lead. So that is not that substantial. This division, this league is starting to thin out. It's not like this spot is super precarious. It's not to the point where now anyone like when there are so many teams so close. It basically feels like any one of 9 teams could get hot in 1 week and all of a sudden surpass you. But it would take a really big hot stretch now for a team like the Cubs or Reds that are 5.5 back to all of a sudden jump ahead of you. They'd have to win 7 or 8 games in a row, and you'd have to go 2-6 over that span to even tie. So I think that this playoff spot feels a lot safer than it used to. And I think that's significant as well. And some of these teams are going to sell and get worse. Hopefully the Cubs sell and lose a lot more games.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and you can see the Pirates selling too. And someone just said maybe they'll like Cody. I think it makes a lot of sense. They probably shut down Skeens if he ends up if they end up not being in it. There's some teams, the Reds, I think could probably sell. Toronto will definitely sell. Who's on your schedule? San Francisco might. Colorado for sure will.
Texas will.
Yeah, true. Texas will too, which also super awesome to see that Joe Buck is going to come call a Texas Rangers game. That's just amazing. Before we get in, because I think we should talk about the NL Central race as we're talking about the NL wildcard race. But before we do that, if you're watching now, please subscribe. It helps the channel a ton. I like the video. We are doing a giveaway at 2,000 subscribers. We're giving away a City Connect jersey, and I believe we're only like 25 subscribers away from that. So we could probably hit it easily by the end of the day, and then one of anyone who I think it's random generated from a subscriber. It might be someone from to be entered in, you have to retweet our Twitter, retweet our tweet about it on our Twitter page. I think Sandy or Andrew could put it out again soon. You can scroll down a little bit and find it, and then if you comment a proof of your subscription, that's another entry as well. So that's a great way to potentially win a City Connect jersey, which is super fun. Also, if you we're trying to answer questions, there's 70 in here right now, which is super fun. So we'll be trying to get things as we're going through as well. I've been highlighting Cody a lot. Oh my gosh, Cody, one of your comments, trust me, I'm going to get to it literally tomorrow, because I have something that's just going to make so much sense. Anyways, I just love that. I just saw that.
I wish a Lance Lynn pitch too, Cody. That's so true.
That's true. That's not the one I was talking about, though.
Oh, I know. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So super chats are a way to get that to the top as well. We always answer those, and it makes it just easier because you don't have to filter through this as well. So if you've got something you really want is pressing on it, feel free to do that as well. But like and subscribe is huge as well for the channel. So anyways, let's talk about the NL Central race, because it was kind of unthinkable for a while that they could actually win the division. And now, you're not going to put them as the favorites right now, but like you said, if this Dodgers game goes toward LA today, they're 4 games back to the NL Central lead now, and it would be July 6th. So even if it's just 5 games, July 7th. It's July 7th. 5 games is not that much. And I'll start off just throwing the like softball here, but we can really get into it. Like, it's baseball. The weird things happen. Teams can go on magical runs for a full year. We saw the San Francisco Giants do that in 2021, I believe, or it was kind of a lot of smoke and mirrors, but they figured it out. This Brewers team feels like a lot of smoke and mirrors. Their pitching and especially their lineup are just overperforming out the wazoo. Crazy. It's not even just like, oh, I didn't expect that name to put up those numbers. It's like the expected stats are also like, yeah, I don't think this guy should be putting up those numbers. I think I saw the other day where all 9 hitters in their starting lineup that day were outperforming their expected numbers.
It's so like, annoying. And some of them by a lot, like by massive amounts. What are they doing?
So sure, that could keep up. Also, I don't think they're going to be doing a selling move at this deadline, so they're probably going to fortify a little bit. But the bullpen has looked shakier as of late. They have like Stouts Keuchel in their rotation now, so their rotation's kind of thinning out.
Are they good?
How I don't know how to ask this other than to say, like, how realistic do you think it is that the Cardinals could chase down the Brewers? Do you expect that to be a real thing toward the end of the season? I kind of think it is.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely the only reason that I don't think they that could really hurt us, I guess, is we just suck against the Brewers.
That's
true. The Cardinals this year are 1-6 against Milwaukee.
Yeah,
that's insane. Imagine if the Cardinals were 6-1 against Milwaukee, we'd be winning the division. So you think about that. Like if the Cardinals had just been okay against Milwaukee, we'd be talking about a 1 or a 2 game gap, you know? But yeah, absolutely, they can chase Milwaukee down. I think on paper, we're a better team. I really don't understand why the Brewers are so good. Like, what is Blake Perkins doing to be a significantly above league average bat? Why is he so good? What are we doing? Bryce Turang is fast. That's his only tool. I don't understand. I don't know where it's coming from. Yelich is having a nice bounce back season. William Contreras, who they got for free, and I will never not be angry about that, is really good. Like he's a legitimate, not an MVP candidate right now, but like a second-tier MVP candidate. If Ozuna and Ohtani weren't having such crazy seasons. But some things are starting to fall apart too. Like you said, Dallas Keuchel's there. The bullpen has regressed. Payamps was this like he was setting the world on fire in the first half, but he's kind of slowed down a little bit. Rhys Hoskins, that might not be working out. He's been pretty bad lately. So some things are going our way. Unfortunately, they're not going to sell. I really hoped they would. I hope they would just cool off and maybe get rid of Adames, just absolute killer. I hate watching him.
That'd be amazing.
But yeah, I mean, I think that the Cardinals are a better team on paper, maybe not in practice. The Brewers just somehow overperform everything. And why is Colin Ray like almost an all-star level starter this year? What is happening? I hate it.
Did you see Andrew's chat here?
That's good.
Okay. Well, let's acknowledge it because we almost always fail to acknowledge that someone's missing until the very end. Andrew's obviously not here today. You could probably tell which chat he is if you're watching live. If you're watching audio, I don't need to repeat who he is trying to impersonate in the chat. You probably already know. It's not Ohtani, but it's very connected to Ohtani.
Yeah, maybe a former friend of Ohtani's.
Former friend of Ohtani's. But yeah, could we call him a friend? I don't know, but
probably
sure knows his bank accounts. So, yikes. A couple of I've seen some stuff about run differential, like wishing they had a better one and that being a red flag. And I get that. Like, I'm not like that's a total non-point to me, but I do think there's sometimes it's easy to not easy, but sometimes those things can be explained. And I think part of it's like, okay, well, they just for some reason don't like to win games by more than 3 runs. And so you're not going to build up much of a positive run differential when you don't ever blow out teams, and not even just not blow out teams. You don't win by 4 or 5 ever. Like it's kind of wild. And so that's going to hurt you. And then the Cardinals are prone to some of those games where they just fall behind 4, 5, 6, and then the game ends up being 13-3. And it's like, yeah, the game looks bad, but we have earlier in the season, those kind of games would send them in a spiral. We just saw last night that happened. They bounced back in that game and the offense kept hitting, and then they come back the next day and they win. So we aren't seeing them get discouraged by those kinds of games. Like they're just kind of like, well, to save the bullpen, we'll get them next time. That's just kind of how they're handling
veteran leadership, maybe.
Beautiful. Brandon Crawford just like, hey, get me in the game as a reliever. I wonder how mad he was the other day when Donnie and DC both made it that's the dumbest rule that MLB is like, you can't throw a position player with less than a 10-run lead. It's like, oh,
I mean, I understand the rule in a vacuum. I get it.
Yeah.
Like, because the Dodgers were doing it down like 4. Because they've done the numbers and they're like, we're not going to win and we're not wasting a reliever because he might.
But that's 10? Like,
that's an overreaction.
Let's do like 6.
6 would have made a lot more sense because I'm sorry,
Yeah.
down 6 in the 9th inning, you're not winning the game. You probably win like 1 out of every 1,000 of those games. It's like,
and are those fun comebacks? Yes, but like, and it's not every team wasn't doing, like you said, and you point out it's the Dodgers, but like not every team was abusing it. So like 6 runs, I get it, and maybe you could do it by innings. It's like in the 7th inning, 10 runs, in the 8th inning, 6 runs, like do stuff like that. But like, anyways, so Brandon Crawford.
It is annoying though to have to throw a reliever out there when the game.
Yeah, and luckily they had Gio, but then Gio like couldn't go the extra inning that day because he had a headache, and it's like, oh my gosh,
Gio's bad right now.
So I think he obviously got them some innings yesterday, so he probably sticks around longer. He's probably a DFA-ish candidate at some point, but I don't think they're going to do that anytime soon, I think.
Maybe ahead of the deadline?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I think it probably requires, which sucks to say because it means we have to wait for a blow up, but I think it probably requires him blowing up. Or like, I could see them getting to a part where it's like, okay, like the numbers are like, I guess he's getting outs, but we know it's not sustainable.
Maybe you flip him for like a random lottery ticket.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone would take him though. I think you probably have to just release him, but like maybe they wait to do that until they acquire a Dylan Florio or Floro. Floro, or someone like that. I mean, maybe a team gives you cash or like a lottery ticket, but I mean, with how bad he's been, I think every other team just gonna like be like, yeah, we'll just wait till you release him. But I don't know. I could be wrong on that.
All I'm saying, the lottery ticket on Sammy Hernandez actually feels kind of good. Like, he's been kind of interesting this year.
I mean, we always remember the lottery tickets that do work out, but I mean,
you're right.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say with that though too, is like Juan Yepes was a lottery ticket prospect, which is kind of fun to think about. Sammy Hernandez, and I mean, you think of the Cardinals catching depth right now. You've got Contreras, Ivan Herrera, and Pedro Pages, but then below them you've got Bernal, Crooks, and Sammy Hernandez. Obviously, we're not talking about like 8 all-stars here, but like even developing a quality backup catcher is an important thing to be able to do. And you've probably at least got one quality backup catcher between those 3 in the minors, probably a little bit better than that, at least from one of them. And then obviously from Pages and Herrera this year, you've seen some nice stuff. So that's just a random side tangent there. So, but though, yeah. So, I mean, we're coming toward all-star break here, about to get Lars Nootbaar back. There's been a lot of chatter, and I think rightfully so, because how the season's gone, about adding more offense to this team. Are you of the opinion that like if the deadline's tomorrow, you would want to see them add a bat? And if so, what's the significance of that?
I don't know. Like my initial reaction is, yeah, I want to see the offense get better. I just don't know where you add the bat. Like that's the issue. If the Cardinals were interested in getting really creative, sure, I would be probably into that then. Like if you were this sounds so terrible, but if you were at a position or at a point where you could like move on from Arenado and then like add someone at third base, I might be interested in that. For example, like I don't know how Justin Turner's been this year. I don't know if the wheels have just fallen off.
Yeah, I don't know how he's been this year.
Yeah,
I don't think it's been
kind of Toronto's been terrible. But like if you were in a spot where you could, maybe like if you could get Vlad and you could move on from Goldschmidt, like that's not going to happen. The Cardinals aren't going to outbid people for Vladdy. I don't know how much. Does he have another year of control after this too?
He does. And Turner's like a low 700 OP guy, and so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe I would do it, especially if you could just get off the money from Arenado. Like I'm really worried about him long term. I really am.
Yeah.
And even though he's been like good for 2 days, I'm worried about him long term. So if you could do that, you could upgrade at one of the corners, which just sounds so weird to be saying. Like I kind of hate.
But we just know that's not going to happen. Like Arenado's not getting traded this season. They're not going to trade Goldschmidt.
You can't upgrade a catcher. You can't upgrade in the middle infield. Like I'm sorry, you're not going to get a bat that's more intriguing than Nolan Gorman long term. And I'm not going to bench Gorman for the rest of the year to get a guy who maybe has like 40 OPS points higher than him, and then have Gorman again be my starting second baseman next year because that's the guy. Wins the shortstop.
Did you realize that you suggested a same side of the infield of Justin Turner or Mason Wynn?
I thought Justin Turner played third though.
Yeah, so him and Mason Wynn would be on the same side of the diamond. Justin Turner, the one who's like that kid that throws too hard.
Oh my goodness. I didn't think about that. That's hilarious. Yeah, what an old man get off my lawn take. But like there's just nowhere to upgrade. And you can't upgrade in the outfield. Even though the outfield like has felt bad at times. You've got Donnie out there. You're not upgrading from Donnie. You're hoping that you get Nootbaar back and that maybe he can play center. But even if he can't, you're not upgrading from Nootbaar. I'm not getting a guy with that much control who I'm interested in, who's better. And I'm not going to like bench one of these guys. That's the problem. You'd have to bench somebody and then still be telling them like, hey, you're the guy in 2025. That doesn't work. Players don't want to do that. And if you're really trying to get some kind of reinforcement, you call up Walker. Like he's the guy. And there's like the center field market sucks. So there's nobody there. Upgrading is just too hard. You'd have to be really creative or you'd have to move on from a franchise cornerstone like Arenado or Goldschmidt. And they're just not going to do it.
True on that. That's just, they're not going to do something like that. I do think though, it potentially, like you look at how the lineup's been this year, Gorman's not really hitting against left-handed pitching. Alec Burleson's like a 49 WRC plus and Nootbaar's a 42 WRC plus against lefties. So I think you could see an upgrade. What was that?
Like a platoon bat then?
Yeah, so I think a right-handed platoon bat that can like what he said, or what Mo said at Blogger Day, where it's the right-handed bat who could maybe play some center field. So you're talking about Kevin Pillar, you're talking about Randall Grichuk, or I think they could maybe expand it out a little bit to be more of a corner outfielder bat, because you have Tommy Edman who can play center, and then Brendan Donovan can go play second base. And you could go with like a Connor Joe, or you could go with a Tommy Pham or someone like that. Again, are these names going to blow us out of the water? No, it shouldn't. But those guys hit. Yeah, and he's okay against right-handed pitching. He's like he could sustain himself, so it's like that's nice. But he's a 120 WRC plus against lefties this year, and the Diamondbacks just aren't using him. So I feel like that's a pretty realistic candidate. Kevin Pillar is like Barry Bonds against left-handed pitching this year, so like that's a fun one. I think both those probably come pretty cheap. I
don't know if the Diamondbacks will sell Grichuk. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see. But I mean, I think I just looked on Fangraphs. He hasn't started a game for them the last 7 games.
That's nuts.
And
he's got a 132 OPS plus.
Yeah, and he's I think he's against lefties though, right? Not on the season.
That's what it says on Baseball Reference.
Really?
OPS 2024, 57 games. Unless I'm being lied to.
I think he primarily plays against left-handed pitching. So he's kind of like the Lamont Wade of that. So anyways, I think but like they have a player or a mutual option for next year at like $7 million. So I think they can move him potentially. So we'll see. Depends on if the Diamondbacks really want to sell or not. But something like that, I think that's a realistic upgrade. I don't see them doing the Brent Rooker stuff. I promise we'll get to the Jordan Walker stuff in a minute because we just need to, because it's a conversation right now.
Yeah.
But I think that's an upgrade you can make. Also, I mean, people are right making the point in the chat that you can see you could see the 3 catcher scenario where you've got Ivan Herrera being that right-handed bat off the bench. Especially if Tommy is able to play all over the field, it kind of opens up your options where you could DFA a Brandon Crawford at that point. Now, I don't think that's the route they'd go. So I think they would have to, if Ivan Herrera is going to be that bat, you'd have to commit to sending Pedro Pages back down. But they seem really into Pedro Pages, so I don't necessarily know if that's the route they're going to go. Ivan Herrera is so interesting to me right now because I really like him, and I don't think he's a bad defensive catcher. I just think he's a bad arm, and that's hurting them, and he has to figure that out. But a lot of the other metrics behind the plate, he's been pretty good, and he's a bat that's actually like not just a decent for a catcher, but he can be pretty good back there. So that's something I have a hard time just giving up on. But the Pedro Pages thing and their infatuation with him, which I'm not saying is a bad thing.
You know what the record
complicates
it. Catches?
It's wild if I remember right.
16
what is it?
7. 16 and 7 when Pages catches. That's the best among all catchers in baseball. That's the best win percentage if you catch more than 20 games.
Yeah, you can't. I
don't know what it is.
Numbers don't lie there.
He's a terrible hitter. Like Pages is clutch. He's really clutch, but he's a terrible hitter. He's hitting 200 with a 583 OPS. But like Pages is a defensive savant. It's amazing. His framing metrics are actually off the charts, like at the very top of the league. It's just Michael Ciani behind the plate.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I don't know what you do with a guy like that, because when he catches, you win. So do you just want him catching?
I guess
also above 500 when Herrera catches. I'll add.
Yeah, and I think the part that's kind of weird is I just don't know what you do with Herrera if he's not on the roster, because I guess you send him to AAA, but like that seems weird. Right now, I can't think of a good trade that makes sense for Ivan Herrera. Like, I don't necessarily see a starter out there that I'm like, I don't think there's any rental starter I'm trading him for. Like, I think that's way too much for Max Scherzer. I think it's too much for Nathan Eovaldi, unless he gets into a straight bidding war and it's like a swap. But even then, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that.
I wouldn't do it.
So it just gets weird. Again, a lot of times this stuff sorts itself out. They also probably need to be a little bit careful because Wilson's awesome right now, but clearly he's been in pain with his arm recently. So I could see a scenario where he has to go on the IL again at some point just to kind of rest a little bit, or this offseason he might need surgery again. I don't know. Like, there's something going on with that. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying for sure something's wrong, but I do think it's something to keep your eye on. And so even if they're like, hey, we really like Pedro Pages, and again, I'm higher on Ivan Herrera than I am Pedro Pages, but I understand why they enjoy Pedro Pages. I don't know if it makes sense to trade Ivan Herrera right now, and I think Kareem's in the chat right now. I think they'd regret it. I don't think there's a trade out there that makes sense for them where it's like it's worth the risk of giving up on Ivan right now. And again, injuries happen, so this could just really sort itself out any moment. So, like if Brendan Donovan or Alec Burleson go down, it's like, well, Ivan and Wilson can be basically the DHs every day, and that kind of solves it. And you've got Pedro as the other catcher. Like, there's ways to fix that, work this out without.
This reminds me of the Blue Jays. Like, they had this problem where they had 3 good catchers, and they
traded the best of them.
They mishandled that. They traded Moreno, who's like the top prospect. So, I mean, I think Moreno is like a better version of Herrera in this case, but they messed that up. But they still were able to bring back some good value. Like, Varsho is a really good player. Wait, what happened, Josh? Are you looking at the All-Stars? Did Gray not make it?
Here we go. Where is the passing button?
I know Helsley's in it.
Cardinals. Oh, it's still going off. The Cardinals got 0 infield or 0 position players. So
Wynn and Burley both missing is kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the names right now, and it's like, okay, I kind of get it. But
Arias, though, come on.
Yeah.
Most overrated player in the league. I'll say it.
Yeah, but oh yeah, Sonny Gray didn't make it either. So
Arias in his 1.0 WAR making it in over Mason Wynn, who's been worth 3.4 and has an OPS plus 9 points higher, is actually bonkers.
And Ryan Helsley's their only All-Star.
Wait, Shota made it over Sonny Gray?
What's Shota's ERA now?
Over 3, I think. Shota Imanaga, 3.16.
Paul Skeens, I guess, he's pitched enough now.
Wait, okay, no. Shota making it over Sonny Gray is a little strange to me. Also, Paul Skeens has literally made like 6 starts. Okay,
I think it's 12 now. It's he's probably made enough to make it.
Oh, dude, Skeens,
Logan Webster
2.7 WAR in 10 starts is actually nuts.
Man. I think, Sonny just had a couple starts recently that blown up on him a little bit that I think probably hurt him in it. But again, it's All-Stars. Like, I wanted more, maybe 7, Sandy.
I wish. Arias over Win is nonsensical. I just don't understand.
Oh gosh, that's tough. Anyways, I'm more concerned with how they play on the field every other day of the week rather than the All-Star team.
True.
Also, but I am kind of annoyed that Helsley's the one. Actually, I don't want Sonny Gray throwing 80 pitches either. As cool as it would be to see Ryan Helsley do his intro to come into the game during the All-Star game, they need to make up some kind of injury or say he's not available. We're not throwing Ryan Helsley in the All-Star game.
I agree. He should not pitch in the All-Star game. Ryan Fernandez is a prime All-Star game candidate, in my opinion. Just give him like the 6th inning. That would make sense to me. Let him pitch the All-Star game.
Yeah. Actually, that'd be fun if they swap John King. John King's not an All-Star.
Dude, that would be so funny if John King was an All-Star.
That would be funny if you could send, like, if you had a replacement, you just got to send a player. And so it's like Brandon Crawford is replacing Mason Wynn as an All-Star.
Can you imagine, though, if like Immaculate Grid 2024 John King All-Star appearance?
Oh, gosh. Yikes. If the Cardinals were terrible this year, needed a representative, then maybe we could get into that conversation. But yeah, Helsley will say he's not available.
He should say he's not
available. I'd be kind of mad if he. I mean, never mind. I can't be mad at someone for wanting to pitch in a game like that. It's an honor, but still,
absolutely,
I would be slightly annoyed if it's like, hey, you don't want to pitch in this game, or you want to pitch in this game, you won't pitch in games that matter. But
hey, to be fair, Helsley's made 40 appearances this year. That's a lot. He's on pace to appear in almost 80 games.
Oh my gosh, you just send Gio in case the game's a blowout, and you can go rubber arm it for them,
dude. Could you imagine the NL goes down 10-0 in the first inning, and Gio pitches the last 4 innings of the All-Star game,
darts,
and then retires on the spot.
Yeah, Cardinals officially announced he'd be the first ever player to be DFA'd after playing in the All-Star game. Not even play another game, just All-Star Giovanni Gallegos has been DFA'd.
Gio serves up sliders just right in the middle of the zone, man. Gets absolutely hammered. John Mozeliak is we don't like what we're seeing. He's gone.
Oh my gosh, that's one way to do it. Hey, we're 21 subscribers away from 2,000, so 21 more subscribers and we will be giving away a City Connect jersey. So if you're watching now, go sub on YouTube. But then to be entered into the giveaway, what you need to do is go onto our Twitter, which Andrew just put up the tweet again, so it's the most recent tweet on there. It's also the pinned tweet if you want to do that, and you just have to retweet that to be entered in. But if you submit proof that you've subscribed, so you can just comment it back, then you're automatic, or you get another additional entry in for the City Connect. So I've got my Mason Win one finally, which is super fun. Love. They had those in the team store, so I was like, that was helpful. City Connects. I remember initially when I saw them, I was kind of like, yeah, but they're pretty cool. I like them.
them.
Also, yes, MLB draft is 1 week away from tonight. Kareem is going to be joining us. We're going to be doing a live stream for the MLB draft. So about 10 minutes before the draft starts, we'll jump in and talk about what's going on, and we'll break down the picks as we go. Obviously, we'll definitely be previewing what the Cardinals are doing at number 7, and we'll get to talk about whatever pick they make, which is just a really exciting time. We'll probably go through the first top 10 picks. So Kareem will be one of our guests. Ethan Hannaford, which you know from KMOX, will also be on, and potentially some other guests as well. So join us next Sunday. That stream will start around 3:50 p.m. because the draft's at 4 p.m. I believe Central Time. So that's really fun as well. Sandy, right? As of today, who's the if you had to pick two or three guys you really want with the number 7 pick, who are your targets right now?
Well, it's JJ Weatherholt. If he doesn't go first overall, I'm going to be so mad. I don't know why. Kareem, you guys have talked me into this, and now I'm so on board. I want JJ. He's MLB ready soon. He's got loud tools, and he's the type of guy that's a top overall talent with slight injury concerns, and we've seen those guys be great picks. Close to 7, 8, 9, 10. So I would love that. I really hope Kareem's right. I want to see Bazzana go number 1. I think they're idiots to pass on him too.
Even so, I don't think he's falling to 7 now. It's too much smoke about Weatherholt going before. I see a lot of White Sox recently. I don't know anything, but just seems interesting. A lot of people saying White Sox getting Weatherholt
Montgomery already. I don't know if that makes a ton of. Well, having too many shortstops is a good thing.
Yeah, and Weatherholt could probably play. I mean, definitely could play second base. Maybe could play third. And Colson Montgomery's pretty big, so maybe he's a third baseman. So yeah, you don't worry about draft. You don't really position fit. But sorry, I cut you off. JJ is a big one. He's number 1 on mine too.
It's not JJ. I feel like I like Burns better than Hagen Smith.
I agree. I don't think Burns is at 7, but I would love
I saw Burns go at 8 in a mock draft.
Yeah, from Jim Callison. I was kind of interesting.
I was like, does he not know what he's talking about, or is there something that's saying maybe Burns is dropping? And for me, it's if Burns, because that was giving us Hagen Smith, if I'm correct, right? If Burns and Smith are both available, I feel like it's got to be Burns. I like him better.
Well, I hope it's Burns. I think they pick Smith though.
Why?
He just feels like a Cardinal pick.
Burns has a higher ceiling, I think.
I know, but I think they probably would project a little bit more safety with Hagen Smith, and they probably go with that.
Go with the best player available.
But I mean, I agree. I want Chase Burns, but I'm not it's not like we're going Zach Thompson here at 7. Hagen Smith's also a guy with frontline upside. But he might not have Chase Burns. Kareem, I'd love. I mean, I know we're going to talk about during the thing, but if you're in here now, want to comment. I mean, I've seen people grade him out at 280 grade pitches already with his fastball and his slider.
For Hagen?
No, for Chase Burns.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So it's I just don't know how you pass on that. But
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, Burns has relief pitcher risk.
I think Hagen Smith, I feel like people have said about too. It's also like any pitcher you're picking that high, there's a ton of risk involved. So
it happens. Mark Apple was a top overall pick. He was seen as like a can't miss guy. And then they absolutely missed on him. So that wasn't not the Cardinals. I think it was the Phillies that took him. So like it happens, you know?
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I would rank I think I'm gonna take Burns out of it because I just don't think he's realistic. I would say I am sitting in the like Weatherholt's my number 1, number 2 realistic's Hagen Smith, and then number 3 is probably Braden Montgomery. I need Kareem or someone to talk me into Montgomery more now. I don't know what it is. I just haven't bought in yet. And I'm not like thinking he's bad. I don't get as excited for him. And I know there's a lot to be excited about. I'm also not really excited about the prep guys with Rainer and why am I blanking on the other prep guy right now? Bryce Rainer.
I don't want to take a prep guy. I'll be completely honest. I really hope the Cardinals go college. I just like the prep experience. It's been really good for the Cardinals lately, to be fair. Like Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, those are great picks.
Yeah.
But I would really like to see them go
Mason
with somebody.
Tink Hens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about first rounders, but absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
But I would love to see them go with somebody who could be MLB ready a little bit sooner. Like
Connor Griffin's the other one.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see a college pitcher. Unless Weatherholt's available, because go with Weatherholt, because he could be in St. Louis by 2026.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I'm down to add a position player or a pitcher. I think we don't want to do the draft show too much right now, but I do think it's fun to preview a week out. But the Cardinals, I mean, we'll talk about their system, but I mean, you talk about the names that we're excited about right now. It's actually more on the pitching side of things. You could probably argue that a bat would be helpful for the system if you're trying to diversify your talent a little bit.
True, but you did just get Chase Davis.
Yeah, true. But I mean, outside like Chase Davis and Thomas and JC, it's a JC's interesting back and forth, but like there's not really a lot there other than, but on the pitching side, you go Tink Hens, Cooper Jerpy, Quinn Matthews, Takora, like there's a lot there. So I think that's interesting, but you go best player available. Like I'm not reaching for an arm and I'm not reaching for a bat if you feel like you need one or the other. Best player available. That's always my opinion. And I think the fact that the Cardinals don't have a pick until like the 80s really makes it feel like where I'm like, you don't go under slot here. You don't go pick a guy to be cheeky with anything. Like you go and you pick the best player on the board. I think that's what they're going to do. I kind of doubt they're going to sit at number 7 and not take a big swing. And also remember Mo's comment about Randy Flores at Blogger Day. He kind of was like, yeah, Randy needs to nail this because his drafts outside of 2020 haven't necessarily, at least in Mo's estimation, haven't necessarily been up to par with what they're wanting. But I mean, you look at what Quinn Matthews is doing this year, and that can solve a lot of things too. So I would love to know how much, I don't know if we'll know this for a while, how much Quinn Matthews' rise would have happened without Heimblum being around and some of the shifts and changes that have happened. How much of that is stuff that the Cardinals saw in Quinn Matthews and when they drafted him, because he didn't pitch at all last year after being drafted. So I don't know. I know there's been some stories written. I haven't done a ton of digging on that, but I'd be interested to see how much of this is the shifts that they made this year. And Quinn is one of the big beneficiaries of that, or if this is something that we were going to see from Quinn Matthews either way. So it's probably a mixture of both. But so I don't think there's a lot else here. If there's any other questions people want to throw in last minute, feel free to throw that out there. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're really excited about what this team has right now. To me, I mean, I guess we can finish out with this unless there's any other questions. National League contenders, where do the Cardinals fall in your power rankings?
Like right outside the top 10, probably right now.
Wait, National League?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were saying National League.
No.
Oh, in the National League, like probably 5 or 6. There's
I think you can make the argument they're 4.
Yeah, I mean, record-wise, they've been great. Maybe are you putting them above the Braves?
I am right now. Also, we didn't talk about the Jordan Walker thing, so we should probably finish with that. I kept thinking we were going to come back to it. I'd probably put them at 4. Where would you put them? 5, 6?
I would say 5. It's tough for me to put them above the Braves right now, just because the Braves still have depth. They're still scary, and I feel like Olsen and Riley have underperformed a lot. And it's the same as Goldie and Arenado, but I think Olsen and Riley are still like all-star level players, and I don't think Goldie and Arenado are. So, but it's tough. It could be better than the Braves. They've been way better than them over the last month. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think to Kareem's point, I don't believe in this rotation either. Come postseason, like as at least beyond the wild card series right now. I think you would need to add an actual number 2 starter to make me feel like they could really do damage in the postseason. So yeah, we'll see what that goes up. But yeah, the Jordan Walker side of things, I think it's pretty simple. I think national people are throwing it out there because I mean, we do those things, right? We're like, whoa, what about this prospect from this team or this player? And then that fan base is like, you're an idiot. They're not going to trade him. Like, people do this all the time. Cardinals are just the latest example of it. Jordan Walker is not available. You technically listen on everyone, and I'm sure the Cardinals are talking about it. Like, I don't think there's a 100% flat out no to it, but I just do not see any scenario popping out that would actually make them make the move here. And then Ben Frederickson's piece today was basically just running us through the thought process. It was a good story. It was a good column to be like, okay, national people are throwing it out. And I mean, he is in AAA and he's not necessarily doing what you want him to do. And Mo's timeline's coming to an end. So maybe he wants to make a big push. And Walker, he's probably part of your future right now, but is he a part of your present? Maybe not. And Mo talked about Walker today with Killacoin, and he wasn't like, oh, we love Jordan and he's the bee's knees and we just believe in him so much. He was like, yeah, performance matters. Like, he was pretty frank with it. So like, I think you look at those things, you're like, whoa, could they trade Jordan Walker? But then you think about it and it's like, no, like, what move would you make that makes sense to move Jordan Walker right now? And you're selling low on him. I get this.
Low.
Yeah. I just don't. Yeah, I don't see it. Kareem brings up a good point. It's probably the one thing I think is realistic that makes me think, and it's the Garrett Crochet side of things.
Yeah.
I say right now I'm a no, but I'd have to think about it because he'd be the headliner. And so it's like, what else are you giving up? If it's swap, I probably, right now it's just hard for me to say yes because I just love Jordan Walker and I don't want to give him up. But it's like, it is Garrett Crochet though. And he's got
I'll be
control.
honest, I'd rather the Cards miss and keep Jordan Walker.
I think I would too.
I would rather Jordan Walker just be like an average big league hitter who's an average defender and have like a career in St. Louis. And like, that's fine. Then them trade him and him go be incredible. I would rather than miss him.
This is different than Dylan Carlson. Like, Dylan Carlson was, he straight up is a better prospect. And anyways, people differ on how good of a prospect Dylan Carlson was. He was obviously like a top 20, top 15 prospect in all of baseball. So significant as well. But I just think Walker's a different animal, the kind of ceiling you can see. Is he going to reach it? Right now it's trending no, but like, is he a future like high 200s, low 300s hitter potentially who hits for less power than you would think for his size, but like a 20, 30 home runs max kind of guy? Like, is he a Jermaine Dye? Is he a Derek Lee type? Like, I think he really could be. And so anyways, I'm just keeping that around. I don't see the reason to move from him. But I get why it's a conversation. It kind of annoyed me to see how much people were like, oh, they're going to trade Jordan Walker. I'm like, no, like why? No one's saying that. I don't get it. The Victor Scott side of things, I really don't think they would move him either unless the team really valued him. But I do think the Michael Ciani thing does potentially change it because you could argue Ciani's maybe 70% the potential player that Victor Scott is. He just doesn't have the stolen base threat to that level. So maybe that could be something.
To be honest, I would like to see him run more aggressive.
True. Yeah, so I just don't think Victor Scott's being moved either. And I don't really want to move him. But anyways, I just think in general, I don't think any of the top Cardinal prospects are going to move. I think like the most significant prospect you can see is like a Tekoa Roby type, which even that, I don't know how teams would value it at this point. And then I really like even Ivan Herrera, even though he's not a prospect, I think that's a chip that I could see the Cardinals using. I'm not saying they should. I think it's a realistic thing. Otherwise, I think you're looking at the lower level guys, right? Or lower end guys like a Graceffo, a Crooks. Like Graceffo's the high end of what I think they would give up at this deadline. I
agree.
So we'll see. I mean, the cost of pitching always is higher than we think it usually would be. I mean, Jack Flaherty got you Prieto, Showalter, Andrew Rahm, and he was kind of like all over the place last year. Jordan Montgomery got you Roby and the JC. So yeah. I don't know what you do with that. So I'm glad we're in agreement that Jordan Walker should not be traded and that we don't think that would happen. So, anyways, so good episode today. Really enjoyed chatting with you, Sandy. I think we'll be back again Wednesday like usual. Then again, next Sunday is the draft live stream. So join us. Kareem will be on for part of that as well. Ethan Hannaford will be on for part of it. We'll get some other stuff going as well. So it'll be really fun. Excited to see what happens with us next week with the Cardinals finishing up their stretch before the All-Star break. How close can they get in the NL Central? How much of a lead can they build in the wild card? What kind of position are they going to put themselves in record-wise and for the trade deadline specifically? And obviously, too, what are they going to do with the number 7 overall pick next week? Could be really fun. And also, I mean, who knows? Maybe there's a 3rd rounder, 4th rounder they pick up, like ends up not Quinn Matthews, but ends up being really interesting. You know, like those things happen. So, lot to be excited about right now. Lot to think about. So, again, like and subscribe if it's your first time watching. It really helps the channel a ton. Like if you always watch, it really helps. But then subscribe if it's your first time. We're super close to 2,000 subscribers. We're now at we're 17 away. So once we get to 2,000, we'll give away a City Connect jersey. Yeah, really appreciate you guys showing out for this episode today, and we'll see you next time.